Learn anything, anytime, anywhere education. Witchcollege.co.
Oh, fire, fire, oh, fire, call the fire department. Oh, wait, never mind. Fluffy says that he's smudging the house. Yep, smudging the house. He's been stressing how important it is to indulge in psychic hygiene. Yep, move that energy. Well, okay, I'm gonna go over here and chew on Fluffy's foot. I'm gonna go smudge the foot so it smells better, get rid of all that bad juju. You don't want his other foot to fall off. Remember, look us up on With the Fluff. Love ya. Bye. Ow.
Aromagees Botanica, a metaphysical store for mind, body, and spirit. Oils, herbs, candles, crystals, teas, handmade soaps, tarot cards, everything you need on your magical journey. Daily psychic and tarot readings, classes, witchcraft, pagan, and hoodoo supplies, most of it made in-house. Try our free Dress Your Own candle station. From spiritual gifts to ritual supplies to religious books, we have the widest selection of metaphysical products in all of Tennessee since 1999. It is our goal to inspire everyone to explore their spirituality in their own way by offering information and products in a nurturing multicultural environment. Open 7 days a week. 223 Donaldson Pike, Nashville, Tennessee, or visit us online at aromagees.com.
Here we go. Back into the Zoom room now. Got it. All right, wonderful. Hello, 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 everyone. This is Maria Shell, and welcome to Witchy Wednesdays at 1. Yay! Thank you for joining me. Today is the 3rd of May, and with me today, I have the pleasure of interviewing James Merrit, the Dragon Witch. Hello, James. Thank you and welcome for being on my podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. I know we've been working for a while to find a time when our schedules could coincide to bring you here. So I'm so glad that it worked out just after Beltane. We got some huge astrological occurrences coming up here on Cinco de Mayo. So the stars are speaking to us right now. And so you have a great background behind you there, coming up into eclipse season. Yeah, all kinds of opportunity for explosion, both positive and a little bit of negative if we're not very careful about our intentions right now. So anyway, I digress. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about how you found your feet on a spiritual path, where you're from, just kind of the history stuff.
So was born to a conservative Protestant pastor. So I'm a pastor's kid. Was brought up in a very conservative home. Care Bears were in Smurfs were evil. None of that, anything with magic was just not allowed. And we grew up Christian. We went to Christian college, and while in Christian college, we were doing an in-depth study on the characters of the Abrahamic God, the characteristics. And we were like, this doesn't line up. This doesn't line up with our beliefs of what we choose to follow. So we won't go into details of it, but they didn't line up. So we started searching for a spiritual path that lined up with what we believed. And Hecate came to us. And at first we were like, who's this old lady in our house? We've been seeing the dead since we were 5 years old. So we just assumed that's who this was. All our mother's side of the family and our father's side of the family, the women are very intuitive. They claim Christianity, but they come from a long line of Germanic and French witches.
Okay.
That's kind of our upbringing.
Well, and I found it to be the case that a lot of people who are raised in a very strict Christian household have witchcraft and or shamanism or some form of tribal or ancient spirituality in their lineage. But for some reason, it became dogmatized a couple of generations back, like the grandmothers, right, of the people who are my age, your age, who were afraid of the gifts that they had inherited through their lineage, and in order to shut those off, began to practice these more dogmatic Christian and the top three Abrahamic religions, right? Because they found that there was a lot of structure and rules about what should happen and what shouldn't happen, and as long as you followed the rules, you had kind of a guarantee clause built in, right? And so I think, go ahead.
Who needs to learn the lessons that you need to learn in life if you can simply say a single prayer at the end of your life and be fine?
Right. Exactly. And in fact, life is a prayer. And that's one of the things that I think that that is a disservice about the three major religions, is that they don't teach you that every act from the time you're born until the time you die is sacred, and that the magic is in the discovery of your next sacred step on the path. It's not a destination that we're working toward, right?
Exactly. And also, growing up, our mother, who is a Christian, used magic. I mean, she used prayer, which is the same thing as a spell. But we saw cars start without spark plugs. We saw groceries appear in cabinets that had no groceries. We saw miracles or magic, whichever term you prefer, on a daily basis in our home growing up. So we knew when we were seeking our spiritual faith that atheism wasn't an option.
Right.
And then after Hecate came to us, then since then we have had communications with many different gods. We've had conversations with the Abrahamic God in the throne room. where we meditated and went into the throne room because we were going through a year of forgiveness, forgiving ourselves, forgiving others. And part of that was forgiving the Christian God,
Right.
for the pain that we had endured growing up. And he was like, "It's not my fault. I didn't do it."
Yeah, exactly. I didn't tell them to do that shit.
And I was like, "I forgive you." And he's like, "Well, that's a little backwards. Usually people asking me for forgiveness."
Yeah, exactly.
So I was like, "Well, I'm not following your path, but I want to let you know we're still good."
That's awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of crazy making shit happens in the name of God, right? So one of the biggest awakenings that we can have, I think, on this path is that he is just as the devil is falsely accused in many circumstances for crimes that humanity refuses to own for themselves, right? So yeah, forming a relationship with Source, Mother, Father, God, brings you to an understanding that many of the deeds who were assigned to Source Creator had absolutely no, were not sent to those people by Source to be perpetuated upon friends, family, society, right? It was in their inability to really connect with their own divine source within that caused them to act in these ways, right? Well, okay, before we get any, go ahead.
I was just going to go back through. So I've been a part of a couple different covens over the year. In several, so we travel around, have moved 30 times in 34 years. So Maryland, California, West Virginia, Georgia, Scotland. I mean, we've moved around a lot,
right.
And been a part of a couple different covens. But currently, we were mostly a solo practitioner up until 3 Sundays ago. We were supporting a friend of ours by hearing him speak at his church. He's a pastor. And so we went to support him, and we were told a message during the service, a spiritual message that we were to teach. And so we started a class, a local class for people who are interested in becoming witches. And it's booked out now through August.
It's amazing. Yay.
And our first Friday.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, well, we'll get to that in a little bit because I'm sure people are going to want more information about how they might be able to work with you in the future. And that's certainly exciting news. Contrary to prior belief, the building does not immediately burst into flames when we walk past the threshold. We can go play nice with the Christians and nothing untoward will happen. So was there one particular aha moment on your path that really solidified this as being your truth for you?
Oh, wow. One moment? No, well, there have been so many moments. I mean, we've had experience when we were homeless in West Virginia, and we were sleeping outside behind a doctor's office, and deer came up and woke us up by licking our hands.
Wow.
You know, we've had moments with nature. We were sent on a journey by a witch from our coven in the past, who was a witch friend of ours in Virginia, who told us we need to go to Joshua Tree, California.
Oh, okay.
And that there were guides that had messages for us there. So we flew to California by ourselves, knew no one except for one friend far up north. And we went to Joshua Tree and stayed there for a week and fasted and connected with the energies. And it had just rained, so all the flowers were in bloom, all the frogs were going. And then we have these moments of, we do readings. We tell people, we say, listen, we'll guarantee you a reading, but whether that reading is going to be an aura reading, a tarot reading, a which aura readings I usually do for healing, because
Right.
I can feel where the holes are. They're usually hot, and you can see we see little black circles
Yeah.
in their aura where they're leaking. So that's usually more for spiritual or physical healing. And we tell people, listen, with a reading, it's like a dance. We can promise you a dance. We can't promise you if it's going to be the Macarena, the Cha-Cha slide, or the Vietnamese waltz, but we can promise you a reading.
Right.
And it's when you're able to give those messages, and then people come back and they're like, my life has changed.
Yeah.
Or even just a confirmation of what you just said. And a lot of times we'll say the message and have no idea. It means nothing to us.
Yes.
But then the person who it's for, it connects with, and it's a beautiful thing to see. And we've had quite a few of those moments as well.
Yeah, I also work with divination, and there are definitely times people say, I don't know why I'm crying, and I'll be like, well, if someone's not crying one night about 3/4 of the way in, then I'm not doing my job correctly, right? Because I need to be tapping into some place inside of you that needs to be brought out into the light. Some message or sign or symbol that you have perhaps been ignoring, or some situation that needs your attention in order to find a resolution. And those things usually touch the emotion in a pretty deep and visceral way. So yeah, it's not the goal when I sit down to read somebody, certainly. But I definitely know, even if I have no clue what I'm saying, right, that source is speaking in and through me by the reaction of the querent in any given situation.
Sometimes we speak through source, and then sometimes we speak through ancestors or the dead, because we talk to the dead a lot. And often we have these ghost whisperer moments. We had one where we were living in a tent. This is another one of our homeless adventures. We were living in a tent, and we woke up, and there was a lady standing at the foot of our bed, like looked like a corporeal human being. And we were like, what are you doing here? And she said, I died, and I need you to tell my son what I want buried in. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Who are you, first of all?
Right.
And she gave us her town. She lived in this little town in Oklahoma, and was able to Google her with her name and the town's name, was able to Google and find the contact information for her son, and let her son know. I called him and said, hey, you don't know me. I've never met you or your family, but your mom is here right now, and let me know that she wants to be buried in her 4th of July shirt. It's her favorite shirt.
Okay.
And he started crying over the phone, and then he was like weirded out, I guess, because he's like, thank you, and then hung up.
Sure.
And then she said thank you, and she disappeared. And we have these beautiful moments sometimes where we're able to help not only the living, but also the dead to pass through onto the other.
Yeah, and absolutely, that is a service that people need on both sides of the veil, right? So yeah. Before we go any further, I want you to tell everyone why it is that you refer to yourself in the third person.
Okay. So we I don't know. I guess it is technically the third person. Our pronouns are plural inclusive. So we and us, including everything. So there's a couple reasons for that. One, we absorbed our twin, and his brain was connected to our brain up until we were 15 years old, when the tumor with his brain in it was removed. So there's that part of we, us. There's also we, us, that we are part. We went on a meditation journey, and we're shown that we are a part of everything, and that separation of people and things and trying ownership is just about a power grab, and it's not about reality, but that all energies are together, and that we don't own anything. We walk with things and we walk with people, but nothing is ours. There's no our. So that's why we we use the plural inclusive pronouns
Right.
because we feel that touch with everything.
Well, I thought it was important for you to share that with people because we talked about that a few days ago, right?
Mhm.
It's unusual, certainly in modern day society, unless you are part of a royal lineage, to refer to yourself in the plural. However, I have also been shown, and I think several of us on this path in sort of a leadership or change agent role have been shown that what you say is true, that there is no separation, that we are all intrinsically connected to source and of source through our spirit, and that as such we are each pieces of the whole,
Exactly.
but intrinsically connected to each other, which is why when things happen on this side or in the microsphere of human existence, right, they are reflected in the macrocosm of the collective. I may experience something and then I will see it playing out in a global stage, on a global stage, resonating with my individual experience, because what I am experiencing, the whole is experiencing. Just like dropping a pebble in a pond, the ripples continue outward. There is nothing that is separate from us.
And we are very connected with science in our spiritual path as well. And we found it interesting. We were talking to a friend the other day about the micro and macro, and how what happens in the micro always happens in the macro. And the macro, that's astrology, essentially, the stars.
Right.
We're studying the stars, that's macro. But if you study through a microscope bacterium, you can get the same information by studying the bacterium in a microscope that you can get in the stars in the sky.
That's amazing.
What happens in the macro happens in the micro.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of those realities that is coming to the forefront of things that want to be seen by our species, right? We have lost along the way the innate knowledge that we are interconnected to all living things, and placed ourselves in sort of a hierarchical position of like, coolest thing moving and breathing next to the coolest thing. Like, then there's some rocks, they don't really do anything, when nothing could be further from the truth, right? We are all pieces of a beautiful puzzle, but we don't get the picture until all of those pieces come together perfectly. That's the journey that we're on, right? Is fitting those pieces together beautifully.
Another moment we had of kind of a aha moment, because we've always talked to the dead humans, we had a friend who was vegan who decided that he was going to place a spell on us, which is a big dangerous thing to do, a spell on us, because we have warding all over the place, and if someone as much as prays for us, we get a tinker in our head. But made it so that we could see the dead that we ate. So the animals that we were eating started showing up.
Oh no.
And of their deaths. So now we're vegetarian.
Yeah, that seems like the kind of thing that you could probably do something about if it was your desire, but
that came to us and we were told we could get rid of this, and that we could keep it or get rid of it. And we realized it doesn't hurt anyone or anything for us to be vegetarian. So
yeah, definitely
why
a
get
personal
rid of
choice.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry,
sorry,
go ahead.
We've been able to, our mother is a carnivore and is constantly eating meat. And so now we're able to help and cleanse her house of all those spirits and that energy, so that way it doesn't just sit around, because otherwise people have whole barnyards of spirit animals in their house and they don't even know it.
Oh my. I think some of that too can be dispelled immediately when you sit down with your meal. If you give thanks and gratitude to the spirit of the animal that sacrificed its life so that you may be nourished, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what needs for more.
Yeah. I happen to have a history in food service, and so like not doing the meat thing is not an option professionally or personally at this moment in my life, for sure. But having that conscious intention, and I have switched, and the universe has helped provide a good family source for beef and pork. My husband's family live in a rural community just half an hour away from us or whatever, and so we're able to buy a quarter hog, a quarter beef that they are raising on their farm, and utilize those as part of our diet, and that takes us out of sort of the big box loop of like huge animal production and genetic modification and steroid injections and all of the things that go on in the meat packing industry, right? That you don't really think about when you purchase meat in the grocery store. So yeah, that was kind of a prayer of mine that maybe I didn't even know I was issuing, was allow me to be in right relationship with continuing to have a relationship with meat, right? So yeah, and one thing, is my job, and the other thing is my what I can live with on a daily, right? And so that allowed me a good balance.
To the job thing, we've been very blessed. We were looking at we had 11 jobs at one point, which was just too much.
Yeah.
Every day we were working 14, 16 hours, and it was just too much. And so we started sending out to the energies to be able to find a job where we could work minimum hours a week. That way we could focus on our writing, our teaching, our art, and our readings. And we were given a job that pays $27 an hour for 30 hours a week. And
yeah, that's amazing.
It pays all the bills. So we were able to drop 6 jobs because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're still utilizing the time, but in your own pursuits now, instead of like throwing that precious time towards someone else's soul endeavor, perhaps, right?
Well, the teaching the class is taking up a lot of that time now.
And it will, especially the first time around. Once you have the material in place and you teach subsequent classes, it will become easier. And you'll also open up to, offshoots of that main topic that you can create other coursework from, right? So that'll be a growing process for you too. But
the universe
I'm sorry?
The universe has a local library, not an actual public library, but a friend of ours has over 3,000 books on the occult.
Oh, wow.
That has opened their home to us to use.
That's amazing. Yeah, I don't know if you can see behind me. I've got about 100 in my own collection, I guess. But yeah, there isn't enough space in my entire house to have all of the books that I would want.
We live in a 39-foot camper. We very much understand.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Why don't you tell people about what your particular medicine or modality looks like currently? How is your spirit work manifesting itself into the physical world right now?
So that's a really good question. We have been going through transition between job and a lot of things, but certain things we do every day. Weather magic. We have friends who contact us and they're like, "Hey, can you change the weather?" And we're like, "Yeah." And so we'll call on rain, or we'll call off rain if someone has an event. We do so we go to fairs and sell our paintings. Well, sell. For every one we sell, we give one away. That's why we were laughing about that. But the paintings are a spell each one. So you have binding spell paintings, you have cleansing spell paintings, you have dream spell paintings, you have, we don't work with love magic. When we were young and dumb and didn't know what we were doing, we did a love spell that really backfired.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the dicier forms of magic to work with. Your intention has to be extremely strong to not get whiplash on one of those.
Yeah. And also, we don't do that because depending on how you do it, you're enslaving someone else's will to your own.
Yes.
And when we were when we left Christianity, we were like, okay, we have to find our own core values. What are our core values that we believe, not because someone else says to, but because we believe them as truth? And the main one that we follow is body autonomy. A person's body is theirs to do with as they like, and no one should tell them what to do with it unless they're harming someone else.
Yes. Amen to that. Can we make a poster and spread the word?
Well, we do. We have body autonomy rallies.
Oh, okay,
here.
wonderful. Yeah.
We do political protests, local political protests. We started the movement LGBT group in our county many years ago.
Wonderful.
So we work with that as well.
But I got us off topic. Tell us more about your paintings.
Oh yeah, the paintings. So the painting started with our brother teaches art. He teaches paintings to. He's a veteran and he teaches art to veterans with PTSD for treatment. And so we're like, well, it helps with mental health issues. So we started painting for our mental health to process emotions, and we would process emotions onto the painting, which are abstract pieces, but we would process it that way. And then we realized how much energy we were pouring into the paintings. Right. We're like, well, if we're pouring this much energy into it, if we can add sage or we can add, ingredients that help to lock those energies into that painting, then when someone takes that home, then they can use that painting and not have to and hang it up and use it for whatever practice that they choose. But the battery's charged.
Right. Absolutely. And you were telling me you mix not only ground sage, but also ash from various medicinal plants, magical and medicinal plants into the paints themselves.
Yes, and also holy days. So ash from the Samhain bonfire, ash from we have a fire every full moon, so we use that ash. We use cannabis in some of our paintings as well. Sometimes the ash, and sometimes on one piece we actually sprinkled. We just crushed it up and sprinkled the cannabis right on top of the paint.
Right.
Which,
that's beautiful. I don't know if you know, but I'm a cannabis witch, so so I love that. I love that.
And so that just kind of progressed through doing more and more paintings and doing festivals and doing readings at the festivals while selling paintings. And we have learned so much. We keep our besom, and for those who don't know what a besom is, it's a witch's broom, right. Of the tent entrance. So anyone who wants to come into our tent has to walk under our besom, which protects. And so we've had people walk right up to the tent and turn around and walk away, right. Not because they weren't in our stuff, but because their energies were not aligned to where they needed to be.
Yeah.
And so it helps protect us and get people that need the work. Sorry about that.
I actually had my retail space located in a flea market for a while. And you could see that happen as I was sitting in the booth space. Like I would watch people as they walk past, and some of them would immediately like be drawn in, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, when did you get here? We've been looking for you our whole lives." And then I would see other people walk past, and they would like draw their children to them and be like, "Don't look over there, walk faster." And there was nothing different about the space, about me, about what I did necessarily, except that I did have pretty good protections in place to ensure against theft and other forms of mischief when I wasn't on site, right?
Well, we use chicken. We make blessed mummified chicken feet.
Okay.
And which is like a 6-month process.
Right.
We start with put them in salt with frankincense and myrrh and honey, and mummify them for 6 months, and then dehydrate them. And they work really well as theft. No one has ever stolen from us, and we'd kind of be scared for them if they tried,
right?
Because
hey, you're talking to Baba Yaga's witch, so I know exactly what you're saying. I actually a couple of years ago at Starwood, a young man approached me. I had my booth space up, and I'm going this year as a presenter, so I'm not going to be selling physical items, but I was at that particular festival, and he came up and wanted to know if I would accept barter. And I said, sure, it kind of depends on what you have to trade. And he was like, well, I see that the name of your business is Baba Yaga's Hut. I have a chicken foot, like an ethically sourced chicken foot. Would you be interested in that? Yes. So yeah, I added that to my altar box. I have a traveling altar box that I take to different events and festivals and things. And so, yeah, that is definitely one of my earth tools to call on ancestors and sort of that home protection energy, right?
We actually bartered our solstice, or not solstice, our Samhain painting a couple years ago, 2 years ago, to another witch, and we sent her the painting, and she sent us a deer leg crystal wand.
Oh, wow.
Which is one of our tools. So we love bartering.
Honestly,
if you could barter, it's
yeah,
awesome.
Bartering is, of course, everything that someone has of worth has a price to it, right? But sometimes the barter is so much sweeter and more intentional and magical than any dollar amount you could have placed on the time or effort that you put into creating a product, right? Because the person who making that exchange really has to see into you and what it is that would equate to the gift that they are receiving, right? And so often I find that the items for barter have more value, both monetarily and intrinsically, than any dollar amount I could have placed on there, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So go ahead.
You use the right word there, and you use the word gift. Bartering is gifting, and gifting of equal value, and that's where I think the magic lies in, is you gift from your heart.
And I think that's one of the reasons why, as a divination artist, I have a very clear channel, is because the first 20 years that I read, I never charged a dime. I either read people for free because they were friends or friends of friends, or I could see that there was a need there, or I did them at festivals, but strictly for barter. I never charged a dime. And that allowed me to develop a really deep channel. Because I was gifting.
We were 7 years.
I'm sorry?
We were 7 years in before we started accepting even donations.
Right. Yeah. On occasion, I still barter for something. So just depends on what it is and what they're looking for, right? But yeah. So okay, we're getting along on time here, so we're going to cover a couple extra things. I knew we would go down the rabbit hole here. So, what sort of media are you engaging in right now? Is there any one in particular that you're finding particularly inspirational as a teacher or mentor in your life right now?
So lots of books. As far as is that you said mediums? So what kind of mediums are we using?
Different media, like, is there someone you follow on social media, on YouTube? Is there, how are you gaining more knowledge and experience as part of your craft?
So media, we have an Instagram. We have we just started the Caroline County Witches, which is for witches in Caroline County. It was not even legal to do readings for people in our county until 2007.
Wow.
So it's a very conservative Christian community, but we've had strong support from the group. There's over 60 people in the group, and it's only like 2 weeks old. We have some other witches that we follow and that we connect with online, that we met through some on Facebook witch auction houses.
Right.
I think that might be when we met originally.
Twisted Witch, yeah. Through Ash Luna.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we haven't done much of that lately because we haven't had the money to be buying stuff, and it's hard to look at that stuff
I know, right?
without spending a lot of money. But yeah, most of our learning has been with a few select older witches that are seasoned that we go to for knowledge that are local. We have
Wonderful.
3 really strong local elders that we can go to for any questions. One is a shaman, one is a witch, and one is a Native American healer who is a tribal leader and very, very in-depth, in tune with energies. So depending on the question, we have sources that have come into our lives. And our phrase we like to use all the time is, we get what we need when we need it.
Absolutely.
If you live a life of gratitude, you get what you need when you need it. You don't always get what you want, but you get what you need.
Well, and thank God, because sometimes the things that we think that we want are in complete opposition of what our soul is calling for, right?
Proof positive of that, we did our taxes and made $12,000 last year. Included in that was our rent, paying off our house, which is completely paid off, a $9,000 truck, which is completely paid off, and was able to go on 7 different trips last year.
That's amazing.
So
yeah,
it's because things just fall into place when we are on the path we're supposed to be on. For some reason, it just, things line up. And when they're not lining up, we know we need to take a second, ground, and get back where we need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in a lot of cases, we keep searching for the missing piece to the puzzle when really the missing piece is us.
You know, you're the second person to tell me that today.
Well, there must be something in the air then right now. Maybe this lunation that we've got coming up here on Friday is starting to speak to that. And I think, that's kind of what COVID showed us, really. In a lot of ways. It's like, okay, what are we doing with all of this time that we had before we sat in our house and did nothing? And how was that fulfilling our purpose and bringing us joy, which is our purpose, right? Is to be in this incarnated form in the joy of discovery on a daily basis, right? And so many of us have gotten so into an autopilot mode that that was like, squash it down and move on, squash it down and move on, squash it down and move on. That the shutdown really gave us each an opportunity to kind of take a look at what parts of ourselves we wanted to bring forward out of that and what parts of ourselves we could discard. So one of the things that I discovered over my shadow work this winter is that although we are each but a single drop of rain, we are also the ocean, right?
Yeah.
And that when we get too busy doing and not paying attention to how we feel, then we're not on the right path. Unless
Something-
how we feel is filled with joy, in which case keep going, run. But
something
yeah, a
that we-
lot of the symptoms of society, I think, are just that, the stuff it down and move on mentality. So
One of the messages we're given a lot lately and that we share with people is we are made up of the stardust of the universe. We are made of everything.
yes.
And if you are everything, everything has to be enough, which makes you enough. Just being you is enough. Everything else is extra.
Yes, yes, and thank you for verbalizing that so beautifully. All right, is there any one thing that we have not talked about that you would like to share with our audience?
If you want to see our paintings, you can check us out on Instagram at Merrit, MERRITT 3066. We have all of our art on there. And if you have any questions, feel free to message us on there as well. It's one of the best ways of contacting us.
That's wonderful. And once this broadcast has ended and is live on the Facebook page for replay, James, you can go in and drop your links for your Facebook, your Instagram page, any website that you might have or whatever. And then just to let our audience know, here in about 4 weeks, so right around the 1st of June, this episode of Witchy Wednesdays will be appearing in our YouTube channel. So we will notify everyone when it comes time for that as well. If they were unable to sit with us today, they can catch it on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a great opportunity to get to know more about you. And you live in Virginia, is that right? Or West Virginia?
We're currently in Maryland.
Maryland, you told me that. Caroline County, Maryland, population 12.
Actually, about 6,800 in the
Okay.
town.
You were saying how
the-
what a small community it was. I was exaggerating maybe just a hair. So, all right. Wonderful. For everyone out there watching Witchy Wednesday, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We know that time is your most precious commodity, and for that, we thank you. We send you blessings of love, of healing, and of light. If you are in the darkness out there somewhere, know that we are shining a light so you can find your way. Until next week on Witchy Wednesday, we wish you all blessings. Thank you so much for joining us and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.